Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our Tuesdays with Virtual Virginia and Instructure. I'm Dominic Church, the Regional Director for Cannabis K-12 in Virginia, and I'm joined today by several of my colleagues from Instructure. We've got Jamie, Josh, Katie, and Rachel on the line, and Casey's with us as well. Looks like that's Jaren's on as well. We've got the entire crew here with you guys today. We have no agenda today. We've heard no bubblings up of anything that anyone wanted us to specifically prepare for you. So we're all yours for the duration. So as you have questions, feel free to grab the mic, throw questions into the chat, and we're here to take you on a journey of discovery amongst Cannabis friends here. So unless Josh or Jaren, you wanted to update anybody, with just kind of the general pace and development around where we're at today versus last week.
I can add a few things. Thanks, Dominic. Pretty much the big thing that's been going on since last week is the support numbers. So we've set up, I believe it was 50 field admins on Friday. We have another 80 going out today. So most of you should have your support numbers in your system by now, and we'll be receiving field admin setup instructions by email shortly. So that's fantastic news. Lots of support networks. I think we're at a little over 80-something% of people will have their support network set up. And most of the stragglers are people that we don't have field admins for, and we've requested it, or people that aren't interested, that whole thing. But yeah, so that's fantastic news. We are currently handling priority 2 customers this week. So you can expect a couple of cold calls from me directly to your contact numbers. Just as a check-in, make sure that you're feeling comfortable, and that's for pretty much anybody starting this week as far as teachers and students go. So that's really all I had to add, though.
Dominic, I just will add something too, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Great. Hi, everybody. It's Casey Testerman. I did send invites for this week for the workshops for the admin. There are 3 this week. Actually, let me get to my calendar and I can just read them off to you as well. If you haven't been invited, please put your email in the chat and I will add you to my list. But we have one tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m., one tomorrow afternoon at 1 p.m., and then the third one is Thursday at 3 p.m. And that's for admin. We'll be talking about visioning, and I'll be giving you communication tools, things like that. So if you have any need for that, or if you know that there's someone who needs to be invited, please let me know. And we'll be doing that this week. And then we start with teachers on the week of August 24th. If you have any questions, let me know. Thanks. Thanks, Dominic.
Thank you, Casey. All right, so we've got some questions popping up in chat already. First question, a teacher is working with a book company, downloads some ASL materials into Canvas, is curious about SCORM files. So it sounds like this company is delivering SCORM. Rachel, do you want to touch on what are SCORM files and how do we support SCORM?
Yeah, so SCORM is a standard. It's a little bit of an older standard, so we don't hear about it as much as we used to, but it is a standard in order to bring external content into Canvas. We do have a SCORM player that does need to be enabled. So if that is the case, and Josh and Jaren and Jamie interrupt me if this isn't correct, but probably the best way to get that enabled would be just to send the VBA help email, just send an email there for them to go ahead and enable that. If there's another way that should happen, feel free to correct me, team.
And what did you call that again? The SCORM? What's exactly being enabled?
Yeah, it's a SCORM player. So SCORM is the file type, and in order to be able to display those files inside of Canvas, we need to enable what is called a SCORM player, which is something that we can do on our side for any instance that may be needing to work with that file type.
Okay, and that's a pretty simple import. Then once we have that enabled, then that we can bring that content in from with. Is that done on the teacher side or is that done on the admin side?
It's usually done on the teacher side or the course designer side. It's an object that comes in as an assignment or a non-graded assignment. So it certainly is something that happens at the course level. An admin would have the ability to go into a course and import those files, but it is a course specific content type that would come in by either a teacher, course designer, or administrator. And we do have a guide on how to import those files once we enable that feature for you.
Perfect. I just saw that because I was the one that was asking. So that'll be great. I'll be able to copy that so we can have that for future reference. Thanks again.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Next up, we've got Jay asking about quota sizes. We went into detail about this last week, but what I will tell you is what we found is that there are certain courses from Virtual Virginia that are pushing 16 and 17 gigabytes. And so, Josh, do you want to speak to what's our latest recommendation that covers kind of the vast majority of courses? Is it 10 gigabytes or 15 that we're recommending people set their quota to?
Sure thing. So we've actually gone in and automatically pushed everybody to 15 gigabytes, just in mass. That seems to be, there's only maybe 10 or 12, and they're not really Virtual Virginia courses. It's very unlikely that 15 won't be enough. So we're very optimistic about that. There is some case scenarios where if we created sandboxes for you too early, before your system integration, before we pushed any quota updates, they'll be on your old quotas. So we can definitely, if you guys are experiencing troubles importing to your courses, even though you've updated that, even though course quota is updated to 15K, let us know. We can send you some instructions how to fix it. It's a pretty quick little fix. You just have to go and manually override each course to have that new updated quota.
Yeah, so I guess you guys missed me because mine's still set at 5 gigs, so I'll update that to 15. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Jay.
All right, Tani asks a question that certainly was on my mind earlier this week as I kept pointing people to the guides, and the guides moved and disappeared on us. What ended up happening was we had a planned migration of our guides from an old system to a new system that's going to allow for more robust, guides and searchability, those sort of things. And what happened was the redirects that we had set up from the old guide URLs to the new guide URLs were not working. They should all be working. I know that the team that was doing that migration was working furiously to map all of the old guide URLs to the new. Hopefully those are all fixed going forward, but you should be able to access the guides. If not directly via the URLs that we've sent, you certainly can go into the guides and search for the topic that you're looking for. And we hope that this new organization is going to make it a lot easier for people to find the information that they need in those guides. The guides are amazing. They're how I learned all about Canvas many moons ago. And it's helpful when we can access them. That much I know. We've got a request to add someone to the list, Casey. So grab that email and pop them on a few emails that are popping in to add to your list. Let's see, Jay, what are you referring to? Multiple certificate tickets coming in.
So we probably had, 20 or 30 certificates, like various things between, they click on one module, get one module done, and then they get their certificate of completion, all the way to they complete the course and their certificate was good at first, but then when they went back to make a copy of it, it showed that it wasn't completed, just stuff like that. And they're all going into the support cloud. I'm not seeing what the resolution to those are.
Yeah, I'm not positive are they taking courses in the subscription portal, or is this through Virtual Virginia, or?
No, this is all of our teachers are going through training right now, and they're either they're growing with Canvas completion, or the sandboxes they're setting up. It could be that we have a lot of user errors going on.
Yeah, we'll have to do some investigating on that because I'm not positive what could be generating the certificates.
So basically, you guys aren't seeing a system-wide certificate issuing error, so it's probably something we're doing wrong, which
Could be.
we can pursue
yeah,
that.
you know my email address. Reach out and I'll take a look at it with you, and we'll figure
Yeah.
out what's going
If it's not something going on with Canvas, we'll find out about it.
on.
I got staff.
Fantastic. All right. More people piling on about the guides. Check those today. Let's see where they're at. Hopefully they're all fixed. A lot more email addresses. Looks like Nicole says, teacher shared something in Commons from her training, but then when she tries to import it into your instance of Canvas, she gets a failed message. You weren't able to import it into your sandbox, or you were, but she's not able to. That could be a quota issue, potentially, if she made it in a place where the quota was big and then her quota is small.
I don't think it's a quota issue because it's a smaller file. It's not nearly as large as some of the other ones. And it's just so weird because I literally sat down next to her to make sure she was doing it the same way I did. It imported into mine fine, but it wouldn't go into hers. And I tried like the export instructions that you all sent to me, and that didn't work either. I got a failed message that way too.
Curious, definitely. The best thing to do on something like that would be if you've got the tier 1 support enabled in your instance, would be to fire a message over there, because they can take a look, and there may be a variable somewhere that's making it so that she can't import it into her course, but they'll be able to go through that. Otherwise, failing that, you can always send an email to VVA help, and we'll do a little follow-up on that as well.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Kristen asks about the availability or the ability to download materials for students on their devices. Remote rural areas that may have inconsistent internet, can students download modules weekly? I think we've settled on the HTML downloads for the network, at least for now, where students would be able to, on their modules page, there's going to be a button in the upper right hand corner that allows them to export all of their modules as a downloadable package that they would then be able to view on an iPad, Chromebook, MacBook, anything with an internet browser would be able to pull those files up and navigate it very much like you would on the website. You can't submit things. They'd have to come back to the internet in order to submit things, but they'd see all of their assignment headers and exactly what's expected out of them so that they can go through and complete those.
Are they going to be able to do videos? I know we're working on that according to the chart. But when will the video capability be available?
Yeah, so as long as videos are added to those modules as native Canvas videos and not as an external video player, those videos do get packaged up with the modules, as well as any additional documents that may be added, like PDFs or doc files, those sort of things. The problem comes when we have embedded videos that need to be streamed. So even our native studio service requires an internet connection in order to stream that content, same as YouTube or something like Vimeo. Those we wouldn't be able to capture the video because the video is actually being hosted on a server somewhere. But when we do add those videos directly onto a Canvas page or into a Canvas module, when we go to create those modules, the videos do get embedded that way. All right, Jamie shared the SCORM guide. Do teachers' published courses automatically go into Commons, or is it private unless they decide to share it? Nothing automatically goes into Commons. Somebody has to choose to share it in order for it to go into Commons. So they would have the flexibility to share it if they've decided that it's something awesome and they want to share it with people. They can share it, of course, in multiple layers of Commons. They could share it to just their own private Commons if they want to retrieve that for later. Then you're going to have an institution-wide Commons that your teachers could share to if you don't want it to leave the walls of your division. And then I don't know if we've been being able to share across the entire network in virtual Virginia yet, but even beyond that, there's the global Commons where teachers could share, and that means anybody with Canvas around the world would be able to access it. But any of those levels of sharing would have to be initiated by that end user teacher or an administrator at the district.
Is that within the create the course button there? So there's that private checkbox I feel like people can check, and then there's a drop down box. Like okay, no.
That checkbox is really just setting the the copyright notifications associated with that course.
Oh.
Even when the course is created, once the teacher has built out their course, and if they want to share something, they still have the ability to do so.
Okay.
But Cassie, to clarify, the process of creating a course in Canvas and the process of sharing content to Commons are two discretely different workflows. So just because you create a course in Canvas and you say that it's publicly available, that just means that users within your institution have access to that course. It does not place that in Commons. That's a different process. So you have to specifically share content to Commons in order for it to land in Commons.
Okay. I guess what we're trying to figure out a little bit, if we have one course that we want to create and we want multiple teachers to be able to possibly use that course, is it best to do something through Commons, or I've read something called Blueprint?
Yeah, so that's a division decision. We're all smiling because it's $1 million question. So the difference between Commons and blueprinting is Commons allows teachers to go and search for content and pull that content specifically into their course. Blueprinting is an administrative tool that allows you to push content out to your users. So the question is, do you want the teacher to search for the content and bring it in specifically, or do you want that content to just be sitting in their course when they log in? So those are the two different
That's great clarification. No, that makes total sense to me now.
Okay,
Cool.
great.
Okay.
Melissa had a couple of follow-ups around the downloadable course packets. Are they read-only? Yes, in as much as the students aren't going to be able to submit anything offline, right? They can do the work offline. So whatever the assignment might be, if the assignment is to read a book and write a book report, they can begin that work offline. They can begin typing up their work in the Google Docs offline mode or on Microsoft Word or what have you. And then when they do get back to an area where there's internet, whether it's the local library, your public schools, or what have you, they would then be able to submit that work into Canvas. And then we already touched on Studio in the downloadables. Studio doesn't work as part of that download package, but there are things that we can do to interlay the video that you record in Studio. We can, if that is a big issue for your division, you may want to have a Canvas video right next to the Studio video in order to make sure that that is going to be able to be played offline as well. Let's see. Casey's been picking up the emails. Let's see. Cassie asked about the difference between Blueprint and Commons. Rachel just went over that. Can Virtual Virginia content be downloaded into Google Classroom? I think that the short answer to that is directly into Google Classroom, no. Because Google Classroom doesn't support Common Cartridge, and all of the Virtual Virginia stuff is in Canvas. But everybody on this call has Canvas, so you shouldn't need to bring your materials into Google Classroom. But if you wanted to leverage some of those Google tools, you can do all of that within Canvas as well.
Yeah, I think our thought process a little bit was that not all teachers are as trained as others with Canvas, but they're very interested in the content. So we didn't know if there was a way to kind of warm teachers up to the content, because they, some of them hadn't had a chance to really view all of it, or it's not being released all at one time. So can they warm themselves up to the content or use Google Classroom? So they're just trying not to learn all this new stuff at one time, was just kind of the thought process.
It is a lot of stuff to learn all at once, but hopefully you're making it easier on them, because if they are leveraging the Virtual Virginia content, they're not actually needing to build a whole lot in Canvas. That tends to be the biggest hurdle for teachers, is they're not used to designing their own content. Lucky for all of you guys, Virtual Virginia has built this content, so the deployment of content in Canvas, it's not terrible. For a brand new teacher user to be doing, and hopefully we'll be able to get we'll be able to get you some training materials and stuff so that they can, if they want to engage with that Virtual Virginia content, deploy it pretty easily. But they can certainly view it inside of Canvas if they want to familiarize themselves with it prior to using it with students.
Does that have anything to do with the HTML offline access? Or is that
No,
something?
I mean, it could if they don't have internet at home either. Otherwise, if they've got access to internet, they could just view everything right inside of Canvas.
Okay.
All right, let's see. Oh, I missed a question earlier about grade passback needing to be enabled to actually pass grades back to PowerSchool. Yes, we've got to have that grade passback set up in order to have the bidirectional integration between SIS and Canvas. Otherwise, we can just roster and provision, so we would just be able to go the one direction.
Yeah, because
you
so
can
just
certainly, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, so we were, again, trying to just keep with the basics, not trying to give any extra things. So we didn't want that immediately for people. So we just wanted to make sure that it wasn't going to bounce back into our PowerSchool, into gradebook. So I have to enable that for that to feature to work.
Yeah, you'd have to have that set up in order for that feature
Okay.
to work.
Cool.
Let's see. Michael says, as you sync classes via SIF, they're coming over automatically cross-listed. How can teachers de-cross-list or uncross-listed, I think is how we actually term it in the Canvas guides, their classes if they choose. When they click the sections, it only gives them the option to cross-list, but not to de-cross-list. So who would like to tackle that question on the team? I mean, I can certainly speak to it a little bit. If they have the ability to cross-list, they have the ability to uncross-list.
Hey, Dominic, Jaron just unmuted himself. I think that he was getting
ready.
Oh,
Wonderful.
I was curious if Josh has heard this spiel many times, you know. I was curious if we could get his take on it.
Sorry, guys, I was answering emails. We have.
Okay, I'll take on this one. So it is able to basically cross list into a different section. It wouldn't specifically be the decross list because that means you'd have to cross list it in the first place to be able to have that function. They can do that, but basically they need a blank course to be able to do that. Previously with our grade passback options, it has not been a great option to be able to cross list those into a totally blank section that was not created from the SIS. But it is something that might be available in the future. So it is, but you are correct. Everything is going to be set up with the one-to-many from the PowerSchool integration. That is default that we've set up for everyone at this point. Yeah, if Josh, if you want to show the cross-listing or explain that part.
Jerry, you trying to pass to me, man? What's going on? Sorry, I'm not paying attention. All right. I don't have
Yeah, I'm doing it.
Good.
I'll show you an example really quick of cross-listing just for everyone, just to be able to see what's going on with this. Just shown this a few times, so apologize everyone who's been to other meetings and seen the same thing. We're gonna go through it again. All right, so the way that I like to think of cross-listing is basically you have your parent course that you want to basically have all the content into. If there's already one that's been created with this, then basically this is the one that you want to key off of. I grabbed two totally random courses for this to be able to function. I got an 8th grade math class and it's called Screen Share. So 8th grade math is going to be the one that everything is going to be moved into. The sections are going to basically be cross-listed into it. So basically the way to do that, what I like to do is actually just grab this number, whatever is after the courses, just grab that number. And then this is going to be the number that you basically go set up with the other sections. So if we go move over to the screen share one right here and navigate over to the sections, you can basically say, okay, period one right here has these 2 users. These are the users that I want to be being able to move into the other one. So from here, you click on the section, and then this option to be able to say cross-list the section comes up. There is the ability to search in here. Sometimes you've got multiple math classes and it's not always that amazing. So what I do prefer to do is basically pop in that same thing that I copied from up here, pop that in there, and it's going to pop up that specific class. And once you click on that, it's going to cross-list that section and be able to move it into there. So now if we look at it, now the class that was previously in my screen share is now part of the 8th grade math. And if we refresh the page on the sections here, we're going to see that period one with those 2 users are now part of this class course moving forward from there. The decross list is only available once it's actually been put into there. And this is an admin only ability, but you can actually decross list and say, yeah, put it back where it belonged. That was a mistake. So now you can see it's part of the screen share again. Hope that helped.
When you move students from one spot to the another, like a new section, do you lose like information? I didn't catch that if you said that.
Yeah, so to be able to have the grades for the specific student, you have to have the same student in the same exact course to be able to have that function. So I'd highly, highly, highly recommend we do any cross-listing now before class actually starts. Otherwise, you can lose a lot of grades, etc., that come with those specific students.
Awesome. Tani asks, is it possible to add an attendance app to our instance of Canvas? Most divisions leverage their student information system for attendance. The attendance app that we can turn on in Canvas, all it does is create an assignment that basically is a thumbs up or thumbs down, somebody was present or not. If that was something that you needed, we can certainly talk about getting that turned on for you. Otherwise, the other thing that people like to do would be to leverage an LTI app, like the redirect app, to actually bring in your student information system into Canvas in order to be able to take attendance directly inside of there. That's what we see folks in K-12 doing far more often than leveraging the attendance app that we have available. Let's see. Another question about the course being checked in Commons. We went over that. Still getting an error message when you try to access some of the guides. You don't have some sufficient permissions for this. Yeah, just bear with us as we figure out these redirects on all of these URLs. If you're in the guides, you can search and find what you need. If you're leveraging a link that we may have shared previously, that link may not work yet. It should at some point soon, but in the meantime, go directly to the guides and then search for what you're looking for, and you can find that if that link isn't working for you. Is Google Voice an option? If so, how's that set up? I mean, Google Voice that's a division specific thing that belongs to your G Suite, right? If your admins have allowed that to be turned on. I don't know what kind of integrations there would be between Google Voice and Canvas per se, though.
We did the Google integration, so that's where I think we were wondering. And I think we had a teacher that was teaching through Virtual Virginia and used that through their platform. So I didn't know if there was some similarity. She was the one that was kind of asking about it.
I mean, long ago when I was teaching for Florida Virtual School, I absolutely used Google Voice to set up like a secondary phone number that used to pass through. Yep. But I mean, that had nothing to do with the LMS that we were using. It was just a personal choice of mine so that I could monitor, if somebody dialed that number, it rang my phone number as that number. So I knew that it was an FLVS call and not, one of my friends calling me. But that doesn't need to be set up with Canvas necessarily. They would just need to go to voice.google.com and set that up for themselves privately.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks.
Let's see. We've got a couple of questions and answers and emails in here. Let's see. All right. Emily asks about the Canvas apps. They want those for teachers and students. Is there something that needs to be set up on the admin side? It says to contact your CSM. So, Josh, Jaron, do you want to talk about when the URLs are going to be available in the apps? And what the workaround is for right now?
Sure. So we have a couple options for that. We can either set up your domain lookup, or you can look it up directly in the app. What we typically do is redirect people to create a discovery page. So we can play with those two different options. It kind of is a case-by-case basis what works best for you. I think we have something on our agenda to go through and make sure we add everybody's domain lookups, though, in the next coming week or so. So you should expect those shortly. If you need them, more immediately, just let us know. And we can. It's not a lengthy process. It's just something that keeps getting kind of pushed back further and further. So
right now, if you just basically put in your domain, in front of it. So if my jjohnson.instruction.com, if you just put jjohnson and search for that, then that'll basically pop over to the domain automatically in the meantime. But we are working on setting that up so it's part of the search guide, part of the search bar on the mobile side.
Fantastic.
So with that, the apps aren't necessarily ready. Is that what I'm hearing?
They
App
are
is ready.
ready. You search for your direct instance. If you have multiple authentication methods set up, so you're doing one for parents, one for students, one for teachers, then it's not quite ready. You'll only go to the first main position 1 authentication.
Okay.
So it is ready, but we might need to do additional work based on individual instances.
So if we're doing everything through like our Google, everybody's logging on through that Google app, we should be okay because everybody should still probably have the same sign
Correct.
type. Okay, perfect.
They'll all go through that same instance if you just type that into your search bar.
Okay.
All right. Couple more questions and answers that Katie has taken care of. Question for VVA. Do we have our Virtual Virginia team on the line with us? Sarah already reached out and answered that. So it looks like the K-8 content is on target for release to Commons before August 17th. So that's awesome.
Are pasting guides available for any of that, since maybe only 20, I mean, for like if middle schools can only see 25%, is there a way that we can view like the whole thing before it's actually a release so teachers kind of know what's coming? If that makes sense.
Sarah,
Let me jump on the
you
line.
want to take that one?
I'm
Yep.
happy to. So the scope and sequence, which covers the standards and shows what content and the types of activities that will be done in the first semester, is available. And I'll pop my email into the chat so that you can contact me for that. It is contained in the resources that will be available before, I say before Monday because our target date is Friday and we're running ahead of schedule. So may be available as early as Friday. So the scope and sequence documents are all in there. Some of them are still being finalized for the second semester as the materials are going through that final review and development. But the first semester is finalized, and that is definitely in the resources that are going out. So hopefully that information will help you all for local planning.
Does that mean that some of it might be released earlier than the October 1st for the 25%?
25% is coming out this week.
Okay,
So
yeah,
are
right.
you asking the 50%?
Yes, that's what I meant to say. Yes, ma'am.
I'm not sure. We're working as quickly as we can.
Thanks.
All right. A couple more back and forth. Sarah answered some things about the offline version. Rachel shared a link. Katie has flagged the community team and let them know about broken links in the Growing with Canvas and the tutorials. Christy says she's having a rostering issue. All the teachers' students are bulked into one course instead of divided among sections. Is there a way for the teacher to fix this, or do they need to fix something with PowerSchool?
We don't just automatically lump all of them into one course unless that's how it's coming over from PowerSchool. So I'd definitely take a look at the PowerSchool side to be able to see what that looks like. If they're split into sections on the PowerSchool side, then reach out to our support team and we can dive further into it.
Thanks, Jaren. Jay asks, is there a way to mass generate pairing codes for all of the students? I'm assuming that's for the observer connections.
Yes, there is. You can either have your students do them one at a time for their own parents, or you can have any teacher in a course mass export all the pairing codes for anybody enrolled in that course.
So Jay's question sounds like he wants to do it globally for absolutely everyone. The only workaround that I've come up with is basically enrolling every single student into a single course and doing it from there. I don't love that practice, but that's the only way that we currently have available from the course level to be able to mass generate those pairing codes.
All right. Tony asks, is there a way to fix wiki links that are broken when importing the Virtual Virginia content? That's a question for Sarah, which she answered a little bit below that. Let's see. We've got another question. Our courses are coming into Canvas from our SIS onto the dashboard as separate cards. Elementary will have 9 or 10 separate courses. Is it possible to create a link to all of the courses from a page in the homeroom course? The idea would be to star the homeroom so the students will not have so many cards on the dashboard. Is it possible? Are there any guides? Yes. Pretty much every resource in Canvas has a unique URL. Courses have unique URLs, modules have unique URLs, assignments, etc. So it would totally be on the teacher to make all of these linkages, though, because
Dominic, I think she's talking.
they would have to. What's that?
I think we're talking about cross-listing here.
Is that what you think we're? Oh, okay. Yeah, you certainly could cross-list all of those courses into the homeroom course rather than trying to link out to all of them.
And I know that I believe this is an infinite campus situation, which we don't automatically cross-list like we do for Power School. And so I will grab the guide to cross-listing and pop that in the chat here.
Perfect. Glad you guys can read the question behind the question better than me. Let's see. Haley asked me privately, but I'll share it publicly, about the Power School integrations, when we can do grade pass back. We're still working. We're still trying to come to a resolution with Power School. Progress is being made. That's all I can say. But the more we ask them, the more they're hearing from their customers and saying, hey, this needs to be fixed, the closer we get to getting a resolution on that. So we still maintain the ability to do it technically. We just can't do it legally right now because they've asked us not to. Let's see, Google Assignments and enabling that setting. That we just announced the full release of Google Assignments as an add-on to Canvas today. Actually, we did touch on it, I think, a little bit last week or the week before. How do we enable that? Does anybody want to demo how to turn on Google Assignments?
Yeah, I'm curious to see if I've done it right, looking at some how-tos, honestly.
Process did change from what it was when we were doing the beta testing, so it's literally different starting today. So I can look with someone, but demoing it is something that I haven't done either because it literally just released today. But I did drop in the guide from Google Assignments from the Google page in here that shows the step-by-step and the developer keys. So I don't know if someone feels more comfortable sharing that than I do, like Jaren right now. Thank you, Jaren.
Sorry, it's muted. I don't feel confident either doing it. I just know that there is some more documentation listed here as well. So
yeah. So I've installed it several times. The link that Jamie provided access to is probably the best resource. It's hard for us to demo because every Google domain is going to have a unique URL, a unique key, and a unique secret. And so I can show you where you will go to enable it in Canvas, but you will need to get all of this information from your own Google domain. So let me just get into a Canvas environment here. Okay, so you should see my screen. And so I will go to the admin area. You'll go to your root account, and then you'll go down to settings here. And then you're going to come to apps, where this is going to vary from the current integration. Is you're not going to actually search for the Google app here. You're going to click View App Configurations. You're going to click Add App, and all of this is in the documentation that Google has provided that Jamie just shared the link to. And then you're going to add the app by URL. So as soon as you create or enable the tool in your own Google domain, you can name this whatever you would like. within your Google domain, it will generate a key, a secret, and a URL, and you need to add those items here to enable that integration. This is very, very standard for for many LTI integrations. So the more LTIs that you begin adding to your Canvas instance, the more familiar you'll become with this process. But this is how you add the new Google Assignments LTI that just became generally available today. And as I've said a few times, the link that Jamie shared earlier will have all of these details as well.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Because so I can see my Google Apps, this LTI, under that external app thing. So does that mean it's still probably not right since I've done it before today?
Sorry about that, I was muted. So there was a legacy Google integration that existed prior to today, of course. And so what you're looking at is probably the legacy integration. It will continue to work. You're still welcome to use that integration. The new integration just looks a little bit more like Google Classroom. So teachers who are making that transition from Classroom to Canvas will probably feel a little bit more comfortable with the integration that was released today. But it's not a requirement in order to integrate Canvas and Google. If you want to keep using the integration that's already installed, you're welcome to do that as well. It's entirely up to you.
If we want to switch to the new one, is it as simple as pushing the delete button beside on that toggle button?
It is. Yep.
And it goes away? Okay.
Yep. Yep. It's that simple.
So I'm just double checking, Rachel, because the link that Jamie shared on how to install it is still showing to use the developer key and install the app using the client ID.
Okay.
Which, I mean, follow those directions that are there, but it's even simpler because I don't even think the admin needs to get a secret and key. It's because it's going to leverage your authentication anyway, your Google authentication once you log in.
Okay, so I feel like those are, now looking at those directions, I feel like those are the ones that I used as well.
Okay, so it's possible, Cassie, that you have the new integration enabled. I'm not sure. Beta access has been available for about a year. So, you know, some people have had access to this integration for a period of time without, you know, knowing more specifics. It's possible that you had already enabled that. It's also a similar process if what Dominic just corrected me on is how they're doing it, as how the Google Meet is also enabled. So just keep that in mind, that those are two different integration points.
So is that the same for Zoom too? Like if you said Google Meet, is that Zoom as well for is like the third party external app?
Yep, Zoom gets integrated in a similar way. It's every third-party provider builds the integration themselves, and so the way that they build it with Canvas can vary. So it's always best to reference their documentation and follow, you know, their setup protocols because everybody builds it just a little bit differently.
Thanks.
All right, backing up a couple of questions. Christy asked, are students and teachers logging into the same instance? Yes, there's only one instance for your school division. If the students are imported but their logins aren't working, that is a question that you can shoot to VBA help. Whatever your authentication method that you set up should work for both your teachers and students. Sarah answered a couple of content questions. All right, is it correct to assume that any assignment that's being pushed to the SIS needs to be labeled the same in both Canvas and Synergy? No, because what's beautiful about the integration between Canvas and most of the SISs that we work with Grade Passback is we actually will build that assignment in Synergy for you. So you don't even have to have pre-built the assignment to receive the scores. If the assignment exists in Canvas and you put sync, it's going to create the assignment and it's going to drop the grades for you. let's see. Can you export one module at a time using Epub? I don't think that's possible. I think when you export the Epub, it's the entire course. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, though.
That's correct.
Aaron asks, can we link the Google Calendar to the Canvas calendar? Well, we can go one direction, but we can't go the other. The Canvas calendar does generate an iCal link that you can then import into your Google Calendar. So any assignments that a student might have can then be, shown on their personal Outlook or iCal or Google Calendar. But we can't take the materials on an external calendar and show them on the Canvas calendar. And does anybody want to show where to grab that calendar link? I mean, I certainly can.
I can get there rather quickly, Dominic.
Oh, I'm beating you to it.
All right,
So
go for it.
if we're in the Canvas calendar, on the right-hand side, you'll see a link for calendar feed that generates a URL that you can just drop right into any of the popular calendaring tools that are out there, Google Calendar, iCal, Outlook, those sort of things. And then you can see anything that's showing up in the Canvas calendar externally. Let's see, Rachel shared some docs around cross-listing. Katie did pairing codes. Oh, Casey already answered the calendaring question in the chat. Awesome. Lucy asked, can someone speak to best practices for offline work with HTML or EPUB? Do you want to expound upon that, Lucy? What kind of advice can we share with you on that? Let's see. And then she followed up a little bit with, how do we suggest we work offline if teachers are building a course throughout the year if we can't load one module at a time? I don't know that I'm following. As your students are going back to where they have access to internet, they would be able to download updates and bring in, basically re-download an EPUB or an HTML download so that they would have all access to the additional material that teachers were building. And then Jay said, when we generate the EPUB files, some of the associated files seem to be missing. How does the process determine what files to include in the associated files? Anything that's been uploaded into Canvas will be packaged in that export. Anything that's referencing an external URL is not going to suck that into the Canvas export. So if you're using an Office 365 like online document inside of a module, that's not going to get packaged. If you upload that document into Canvas directly, like as part of a module, then we would be able to render that in the EPUB or in the HTML file that we package. Let's see. All right, so we've got a question again about the cross-listing with the elementary courses. A lot of the times, you're right, you mentioned like in the guides, it's all biology, right? I'm a high school teacher, I've got 5 periods of biology I'm teaching. They all get dropped into one course in Canvas with 5 sections. That's the typical usage that we see with the cross-listing or sections coming over with that one-to-many, is if they all have the same course code, we bring them in as one course if our integration allows it. What you're talking about with elementary, that elementary teacher's got reading, math, social studies, science, perhaps they even have PE, art, music, and a homeroom rostered to them. Would that be cross-listing as well?
Are you asking them that question or me that question, Tom?
I mean, I'm tossing it up to the group. If we cross-list, I mean, I don't think those will come over cross-listed, right? There's not a way for us to do that because they're separate course codes.
Well, and in their particular SIS, it's not an option either. I've seen this done both ways. So it's really it's really considering the experience you want the student to have. Do you want your elementary student to log into one course and see all of their content within one environment? Or do you want them to have, you know, all of those different course buttons or shells on their home page? Once you determine the experience you want your student to have is then how you would proceed. So if you want them just like they walk into one physical classroom, if you only want them to digitally step foot into one digital space, then you would probably choose to cross-list them. If you're okay with them jumping around to different course tiles on their dashboard and having the teachers design their courses subject specific, then you probably will not cross-list. Casey, I just saw that you turned your camera on, so I don't know if you have anything more to contribute to that.
Yes, thanks, Rachel. I was also talking to another school, and they were considering the fact of having one login, but they moved their electives to a different location. It depends on, are you going to post information weekly, daily, by module? And so I think that you just have to remember how often they're going to log in. How are you going to say, here's where you start, here's where you stop? And then what's the easiest way for elementary kids to get the information as quickly and with the least amount of clicking as possible. So I think I'm just piggybacking on what Rachel was saying.
So I have a question. When we looked at the demo site for Virtual Virginia courses for K through 5, they had all the subjects, math, science, history, social studies in one course. With little mascot buttons for the students to press on. So is that how we're going to be importing it in? Because that might also tell us if we're going to be cross-listing or not. Can anyone answer that?
Sarah, are you able to answer that one?
I am. I was just typing it out as well. Virtual Virginia is sharing that content the way that you had that preview. So everything is linked with those landing pages to assist with navigation for the younger students. So
Great.
How you all choose to use it after that, you know, that's up to you for what you want to add with local subscription pieces and you know, specific benchmarks or projects or activities that you like to use locally. But it is coming in fully intact like that.
So if it comes in fully intact, how would it transfer back to the grade book? Would it know which content it is?
That would be through the integration of the grades, and that's more of a Canvas question.
Yeah. So it's connecting based off the section sys ID. So as long as that same section is still connected to it, I don't know if I can speak super well if you've got multiple grade books all going into the, like multiple sections going into the same Power School or Infinite Campus grade book. I don't know how that would function, to be entirely honest, but it would definitely go back to a grade book so you could be able to check it out from there and be able to move it aroround.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just want to set it up so we don't have to play catch up later. I want to make sure we're as firm set as we can be.
So Canvas allows you to assign an assignment to a section. So if you have all of your elementary subjects within one course environment, but you are assigning an assignment as a social studies assignment, and you want that assignment to go back specifically to a social studies grade book, then you can assign an assignment to be for the social studies section. Or if you want all of the grades to go back into one grade book, then you can do that too. But I do know that often they're sectioned differently in the SIS because those grades need to exist separately from one another. So I'm sorry that I keep on saying it depends, but it really does depend on what your own local grading system looks like. But if you do need them to be different grade books, then Canvas allows for that with the way in which you assign an assignment.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
So Rachel, in order to do that, you would have to cross-list all the other sections to one, let's say maybe the homeroom. But then don't you have to publish all those other sections that you're cross-listing, or can you just publish homeroom?
You can just publish homeroom.
Because once you've cross-listed them, they're actually only part of the one course.
Correct.
So you don't need those shells anymore for those other courses.
Correct.
Okay, great. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Lucy asked about how do we turn on the HTML option. I believe that's enabled via the Virtual Virginia kind of the way that we've associated the accounts. Right? Everybody has access to the HTML on the modules page now.
Yeah, I am also grabbing as a follow-up the guide for students so they know how to export the content. I think that might have been a follow-up question.
Pop that up in the chat as well. But if for some reason the HTML option isn't on, it's a setting in the admin panel to turn on the HTML downloads. Let's see. Jay asks about the Canvas Synergy Passback. Does the created assignment drop into weighted categories in the Synergy gradebook? It certainly can. Rachel, you have a lot of experience with Canvas Synergy, right?
Sorry, I was grabbing the link for Lucy. Can you repeat that question for me?
Yep. Synergy gradebook weighted, dropping assignments into the correct groups inside of Synergy.
Yeah, so it's a character match or a string match. So my recommendation always when doing category passback is just to go into Synergy or the SIS, copy the categories and paste them into Canvas, because we're going to be looking for a match from Canvas to Synergy to make sure that those categories go back to the right places.
And we set up those assignment groups in the courses. So the teacher would have to come into assignments in a course, add a group. And here's where Rachel is saying, make sure you grab that Synergy header, drop it directly into here. That way we know exactly if something's in the quiz group in Canvas, it gets passed into the quiz category in Synergy. Let's see. Does Canvas have the ability to create submodules or nesting? Nope. We do that on purpose, actually. When you hide modules within modules within modules, it becomes very difficult to navigate. So what we've done instead is given you, obviously, modules, but the ability to add text headers if you want to do sort of a hierarchical way to show the information that's inside of modules. All right. We talked a little bit more about cross-listing with elementary. Joe asks, 50 teachers today said they have no comments button after they log in. Any idea what could cause that? I certainly have an idea of what could cause that. They're not enrolled in a course as a teacher, Joe. If you're not, we don't know, Canvas doesn't know what a user's role is at your district. So we don't know that Mr. Goldman is a teacher when you bring that user into Canvas. The only way that we know that somebody is a teacher and should have access to the Commons is if they're enrolled in a course as a teacher. And so you'd need to get those teachers into courses, either via giving them access to a sandbox that they can play in while we wait for the SIS connection, or once they do get added to their courses via SIS, they're going to be instantly recognized by Canvas as teachers and have access to the Commons.
There's one other odd edge case that they might not see Commons. I don't think this is the case with anybody, but the email field is required for a user in order to be able to use Commons. I believe that we're capturing that with all of our SIS imports, but just something to be aware of.
Perfect. Lucy asks, can we show what full intact means? I don't remember what that's in reference to. Anybody else?
I think she was asking about what the K-5 resources will look like. And in sharing the landing pages, we have navigation that's built on buttons for our younger students rather than taking them through the modules table of contents view. And this is geared towards using buttons and the characters that we have developed into each of those courses that takes them directly into the lesson. So it cuts down on the amount of scrolling and is much more directed for them. That navigation is already fully built in and will come right in when a course is imported. So that's what I was referring to. And it can be adjusted, but what we want to do is just try and provide as much guidance for our youngest students as possible about how to navigate the course itself.
All right, and I did see a question about, let's make sure that we've got the HTML enabled for, let's see. I probably don't see this because I have Epub turned on in my instance, but let's see. Oh, here it is. There's a tick box in here that says allow students to download course content and view offline, Lucy. That needs to be checked in order for them to be able to access the HTML downloads. So as long as that's checked, they should be good to go. I think we're all caught up. Let's see. There's been a couple of resources that folks have shared. That'll get, let's see, shared out. I know we're over on time, but I want to get to these last couple of questions since you're all on here with us. Let's see. Does the Rce autosave work like Google Docs since it autosaves?
I just answered that.
Okay.
It's similar. There are some recovery options built in as well. If you navigate away before saving, it'll ask you if you want to recover unsaved content.
All right, and I think the last question, well, two questions. When you create a quiz, there's, depending on whether you use classic or new, they show up in different places. That's true. And that's based on the way that we built the new quizzes integration. It does show up as an assignment. Let's see, is that normal? Yes, right now it's normal. Until we deprecate the old quizzes, they are going to exist in those two separate places for now. And then Lucy, can you use HTML along with Epub? Unfortunately, no. We're trying to find out why and if there's a way for us to enable both of them. But at the, as it currently stands, we can't do both of them. You have to choose either or. And the way that the relationship between the instances is set up with Virtual Virginia, everyone's using HTML right now. So no, unfortunately the students won't be able to use Epub until we figure out how to get both of those turned on. And then that is it for all the questions today. I'm going to end the recording. Let's see if there's anything more that you need. Of course, we've got our Monday and Friday meetings with the Virtual Virginia team as well. We'll be back here next Tuesday again. And if there's anything that we can do in the meantime, you know where to find us, vvahelp@instructure.com. And hopefully more and more of you will have access to the support and things like that as you begin to roll out with students. Unbelievable that we are here in the middle of August at this point, but here we are. I wish you all a wonderful week and talk to everybody soon.